pick. I know one guy that was super excited to see Kyren Williams get drafted because my partner in crime here is a Rams fan. So let's take the Homer Rams hat off for a second. Let's put the NFL draft cap on, Ryan. Let's talk a little bit about the fit of Kyren Williams to the Los Angeles Rams. 5th round does not guarantee you a roster spot, obviously. So let's talk about the fit. What do you like about it? Let's talk about whether or not he has a chance to make this team and how you see his career with the Rams going.
Yeah, I think he definitely has a chance to make the team. I think that's I don't want to say it's safe to say because anything could happen, but they are obviously they lost Sony Michel this offseason, so they were down and back, obviously, just in general from the running backs. They have Cam Akers coming back, who was lost for most of the season until the playoff run due to the Achilles injury. And then they also had Darrell Henderson, who has also dealt with a little bit of injuries during his career, more nagging injuries than serious injuries, but he's been limited in some roles as well. So, I think Kyren, first and foremost, is going to make the team because I think one thing that I highlighted in a recent article on the site, Brian, was last year Notre Dame. Last year the Rams running backs had 53 combined receptions, which in 17 games is not a huge number, right? For that number of games.
I would say that's probably a pretty small number for two guys. I mean, you had running backs getting close to 90 catches in the last couple of years.
That wasn't even just the two guys either. That was including Sony Michel, who I think had 3 catches as well. So the running backs as a group only had 53 catches. So we know people are going to question what is Kyren's upside as far as like a high volume carrier. And I completely get that conversation. But I think the baseline that we know is that Kyren Williams is a really good pass catcher and he's a really good pass blocker. And he's going to be able to have that type of role on the next level. So him coming into that situation, I think first and foremost, he has a pretty good baseline because we know Sean McVay is a really intelligent offensive mind. He's going to be able to use Kyren, I think, in the passing game, run angles, run option routes. There's going to be a role, I think, for Kyren Williams going into 2022 season. The reason that I'm really excited about it, though, is because the 2 running backs I talked about already, Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson, have each missed time during their careers. Cam Akers, we just talked about, had the injury this past season. He was also banged up a little bit during his Florida State career at points, too. So he's had some injury issues during his career just in general. And Darrell Henderson, I feel like every time Darrell Henderson gets a shot to be the lead back, he does really well, and then he'll get an nagging injury. It's usually like a soft tissue thing, right? Like he's got some type of hamstring or calf strain or whatever it ends up being. And then he's a guy that just has not been able to carry the momentum full time. So I think this is literally Kyren Williams is one injury, and obviously we're not hoping for injuries, but he's one injury away. And in front of him are 2 guys that have had injury concerns in the past. So I think Kyren has a baseline as a really good pass catching running back in this role for the Los Angeles Rams. And maybe it becomes more because running backs, we know, especially when you start getting injuries, running backs have a short shelf life anyway. So now when injuries start getting into the equation, that's when things really start getting muddled a little bit. So I think Kyren fell into a good situation from a practicality perspective. And then, hey, he's going to be on the defending Super Bowl champion, right? So not a bad situation to drop into. Living in Los Angeles, not my cup of tea, but for some people, they really like that lifestyle. So I feel good for Kyren, man. Obviously he fell. I was predicting before the draft. I think the final prediction was like 4th round, which, was in a decent ballpark. He ends up going in the 5th round, but I think he really did fall into a good situation.
Because I think we've had people ask about if Kyren and Kevin have regretted. Do we think they regret their decisions? I doubt that either does that, and I hope that neither regrets their decision because it doesn't matter now. There's nothing you can do about it now. So you might as well just focus on what's next. And I think if you're Kyren Williams, you look at it 2 ways, Ryan. It's number one, I'm disappointed maybe that I went fell further than I thought. I mean, there was people talking about how he could, going into the year, maybe be one of the top couple running backs off the board. He wasn't even in the top 10, I don't think, at this point in time because of, there's certain factors, but I think size is part of it, the poor testing, and not just the 40 time, but where Kyle Hamilton had a bad 40 time, but his other testing numbers were really good. Kyren had no good testing numbers. The explosiveness wasn't there. None of that stuff was there. So I think that factored into it as well. But at this point in time, I just think his focus is on, hey, you know what? I went further than I expected, but like you said, Ryan, I'm going to the Super Bowl champs. Yeah, and I'm going to a situation with a depth chart that's favorable. There aren't a lot of 5th round draft picks. You look at it and say, well, That's a good depth chart situation for that guy, and he fits a need that they have. It's hard to find need fits in round 5, in my opinion. It just is, and the Rams were able to do that, which is one of the reasons why the Rams have been able to become one of the better organizations in the NFL.
Yeah, I think people kind of underrate the Rams a little bit because they say, like, you don't have first round draft capital. They don't believe in early round picks, but they are a team that has historically, over the last few years under Les Snead, really hit on those later round selections. So hopefully this is the next one in that line of really nice late round selections. And for Kyren, I don't think he regrets it at all. I mean, we could have I think, a better conversation with the Kevin Austin side of it, I think, but running back is such a position that just is so dependent on situation, right? Like, it honestly doesn't matter as much, where you get drafted when you're a running back. It matters who you get drafted to. So I think that Kyren could outplay that 5th round evaluation, even if he just becomes a really good third down back at the next level. But I continue to just tell people, we have seen, going back to Kyren Williams recruiting and then into his career, he's not exactly a guy that you want to count out. He's not exactly a guy that you just paint it. Brian, for the majority of his recruitment, you could back this up a little bit. I think he was a 4-star by some publications, but there were some that only had him as a 3-star throughout most of the situation. So,
he became a 4-star late.
Yeah.
Like, after his really good senior year, he was a 3-star for most of the process. And I had him ranked very low in my class. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, he's always been, and that's what I was saying, Ryan, when you were out the first time. It's like, I've learned not to bet against Kyren Williams. I could pick apart his game and his athleticism and all these different things. I could do it in high school. I could do it in Notre Dame. I could do it now. But the fact is the kid is just a good football player, and there's something to say about that. And you